just a small disclaimer at the beginning. This is a re-upload of this podcast because I accidentally uploaded the wrong version, which had some technical faults, but I fixed all them, so everything should run smoothly. Please enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to Distraction, episode 9. Thank you so much for coming back. This is the podcast where I distract you with the things that have been distracting me over the last week, whether that be films, TV shows, music, or books. Thank you for coming back to episode 9, 9 weeks in a row. I'm pretty proud. This week we do have a video, and I finally discovered that instead of just standing at my window because my whole room's a mess, I can just go on Zoom and just make a fake background. Oh, except it looks really dodgy. It makes my head look really strange, but who gives a shit? I'm back. I'm Zach. Sorry about the where I look. I was going to try and grow out my beard for the whole of quarantine, but now it's just absolutely disgusting. And I don't have a shaver because I left it in Newcastle, so I can't actually do anything with it. I tried to take some scissors to it, but that was just even worse. So now I'm waiting until I can go home bargains and get one. But that's pretty fun. Yes, this week I don't actually have a big topic. It's just going to be like episode 7 where I just rambled on for a bit, which a lot of people seem to like. It's actually my most. See, I was just thinking before this, I haven't had a voice break in the last week talking to whoever I'm talking to, and as soon as I start getting them. I don't understand why. But yeah, so 2 weeks ago was my most liked podcast. Um, this affected me. My teeth look really strange, and I hate it. Basically, and then last week I did Animal Crossing, and it got like 0 likes, which is like normally I only get like 2 or 3, but it got 0, so I probably won't do Animal Crossing again for a while because I don't think many people are really interested in that. And to be fair, I'm getting a bit stagnated with it. It's been out since what is it, March 20th. I've put like 200 something hours into it, and now I am starting to get a bit of fatigue because they're not really adding that much, and I'm obviously maybe they're not doing enough or I'm not doing enough to find all the new cool shit. I'm just getting a bit bored, so I don't know how much of that I'll be doing on this channel. Um, First thing I'll start with, I've only got funny stories and recommendations, but even the funny stories are just things that have happened on the internet over the past few weeks. The first one is the community. They had a Zoom face call. Yep, that makes sense. They had a community Zoom call. So the whole original cast minus Chevy Chase, for probably obvious reasons that hates everyone who was on Community. Um, they did a because obviously Chong, Ken Chang, and Joel McHale have a podcast every week called what is it? It's the Darkest Timeline, and then this week they had a special one with all of the Community cast. It's only like half an hour long, but it was really really good, really interesting. Obviously, you've only seen the show, but it is out on Netflix now, so I've talked about it before, but you should go give it a look. Coming off the back of that, um, also this Friday is in the UK is the season finale of Modern Family, which I'm very very I'd say excited, but I really don't want it to end, and I don't know if I'm going to watch it and be that guy. Because for me now it's been years. I didn't start watching it like at season 1. I think season 4 was when I picked up on it because I remember being able to get the season 1 to 3 box set like fairly cheap. Um, but all of it is now out on. Oh, season 1 to 7's out on Netflix. Then the rest of it is available on Sky or Now TV if you've got that, or if you've got the DVDs. But yeah, it's one of those ones. I talked about it in my American sitcom episode. But to me, it's great from start to finish. There's not that many. I can't think of a thing. It's a bit like Friends. There's not a particular season which is like shit. Like with most of the American sitcoms, I can pick out a season and be like, that was bad. And even this last season, most American sitcoms don't achieve it. But with Modern Family, it's actually really, really good. I'm not going to do like any spoilers for it if people are just finding it on Netflix. But it's so fucking good. And it's like, I just really enjoy it. And it's a shame it's coming to an end. And it's a shame it's not even just a season ending. It's like it's coming to an end. But there is a 101 facts video about it, which I've been waiting months to watch because I know it's going to give some spoilers to the finale. So I have that 30-minute episode to be able to finally watch. So that's pretty fun. I'm going to go into some recommendations, and then I've got a sort of a little big topic that I want to talk about. Little big, little big. It is Little Big. Have just come out with a new song. They are the best artists in the world. Very, very popular within my uni friendship group. Um, so go and listen to their new song. I can't remember what it's called, but it's class. But yeah, recommendations this week. after my friend Josh told me about the best exotic marigold hotel. And like, well, I think we were just having a conversation one day, and just passing comment, he was like, "Oh, I think you'd like those." And then a couple of days before lockdown started, I was in HMV in Newcastle, and they were like two for like £6 or something. So I got both of them on Blu-ray, and then I had them in my house. And I was like, if there's ever like a blackout or my internet goes down, I'll watch these two films, because I was like, they're probably quite, because I uplifting films, like, what's the word? Just light-hearted films. And I was like, and if um the internet goes down, I have these Blu-rays, because it does tend to go down a fair bit. So, but it hasn't actually gone down at all since I've been home. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch them. And also, the second one is on Netflix now, if anyone wants to watch it after I've finished. But it's basically a couple of pensioners from Britain, loads of there's loads of famous faces which you'll recognise. Bill Nye is my favourite. But obviously there's so many other ones like Judi Dench. And I can't remember lots of them. There's the Prime Minister out of Doctor Who. Like, she's in it. She's also in Afterlife with Ricky Gervais. Can't quite remember her name. But yeah, first one, it's a bit more serious than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a bit Mamma Mia-esque, like not singing. But it was a bit darker than I thought it was. But it was still really, really heartwarming and entertaining, and there was really funny parts in it. But yeah, it was more serious than I thought. But, and also, I mean, apart from Distraction last week, there's not actually that many films I've seen set in India recently. Or the films I've watched that have been set in India recently. But yeah, and I watched like these two just after Distraction, so I was like, India vibe. And it was really, really class. I actually really enjoyed it. There's so much, like, part of the film is like the colour and the noise of the country. And you get that through the film, and it was really entertaining. The second one, just as good. No, same directors did both, so yeah, pretty much the same voice throughout. Um, and yeah, second one, completely different story to the first, but still had all the good attribute to the first, and was a bit funnier, I'd say. Um, but yeah, definitely recommend them. Like I said, the second one's on Netflix at the minute, and I bought the first one, but I'm pretty sure if you got like the DVD or Blu-ray online, they're like £1 or two on Depop, or just illegally stream it, I suppose. Or you can rent on PS Store or Prime if you use Amazon. Um, the next one I haven't actually watched yet, but I put it on because I was about to watch it, then realised that it doesn't come out in England for a month or two. So I'll probably come back to it, but it's called McMillions, and it's the story of, apparently, a few years ago, someone rigged the McDonald's monopoly system, and that's all I know. And I've heard some podcasters talk about it before, and then I watched like a TV talk thing. Like, it's a TV show, but it felt a bit like a podcast. And they talked about it as well. And I was like, fuck, I'll go and give it a watch. And then yeah, it turns out that it's not out until like June or July in England, but I'll definitely go back to that. Or if you want to illegally stream it online, it looks really, really interesting, but up to you. Um, the next thing I watched, which was actually really fascinating. So I don't know if I talked about it last week. I've started watching Zane and Heath Unfiltered. It's a podcast from the Vlog Squad with Heath Azar and Zayn Hijazi. That I'm sure most people know. If you know, like, David Dobrik, it's basically his friends. But, and like, I listened to David Dobrik's podcast for a while, and I was like, I'm not really into it. Like, and also Jason started to annoy me, and I actually boycotted like all of Jason's videos and things he was a part of for a while, because he said some, I wouldn't say problematic, but just things I didn't agree with, and I thought were a bit, I don't know, I thought they were a bit boomer. So I actually boycotted him for a while, and I stopped listening to their podcast. But I started listening to Zayn and Heath, and it was so funny. Like, it was so entertaining. The things they talk about was really interesting. It's one of them podcasts where it's not like a recommendations podcast. It's not like, here's a topic and we're going to talk about this topic for an hour. It's just like their lives and things they've encountered. Yeah, things they've watched and listened to, but also just stories. And they have some absolutely insane stories, because obviously they live in LA and they're part of the whole YouTube scene. So it was actually pretty cool. But so there's like 30 episodes out. And I started at episode 1, and I'm episode 20 now. Like, I watch it like you'd watch like The Walking Dead, like hour-long episodes. So I've just been absolutely binging it, and it's actually really, really funny. And from that, I got my next thing I watched. So they obviously talked about the LA fires. Apparently, last year in Los Angeles, no, sorry, 2 years ago in 2018, there was the campfire, which is how like wildfires get named similarly to hurricanes. And it's called Fire in Paradise, a documentary. It's on Netflix, only 40 minutes long. Really interesting, bit deep. I didn't come away feeling I didn't come away feeling happy after it, basically. Um, but yeah, so it's just the story of a wildfire in LA in a town called Paradise. And it was just one day, one wildfire, how quickly it spread and how it had the catastrophe it showed. But they were even talking about like they live in LA and they apparently didn't really hear about it, or it was big at the time but hasn't really been talked about since. And obviously there was a wildfire this year, which Heath in the podcast actually was a part of. He had to like leave his house, go to his friend's house, get his cars, pardon me, and his stuff, and like just go away. But yeah, that was a really, really interesting documentary. Didn't really know anything about it, um, which is maybe why it was more interesting. But it was a 40-minute watch, so if you just like need something to shove on, it was very deep and like oh shit, but it was really interesting. And then my favorite thing that I've started listening to this week was the Louis Theroux podcast, Grounded, and like it's really, really, really cool. It's very like I sort of like it because Louis Theroux is very in depth with exactly what you're listening to. So at the beginning, he's like, "This is Grounded with Louis Theroux," and it's a different. So the first week is John Ronson, and if you've been listening to this podcast since episode 1, which you probably haven't, I've talked about John Ronson a lot. I've talked about John Ronson a lot because he's got books out like the Psychopath Test, which is absolutely fantastic. I've recommended it before. He also wrote a Hollywood script for The Men That Stare at Goats, as well as writing about it. And basically, they're both investigative journalists, and they both specialize in the weird things in life, like Nazis or like tigers, like Joe Exotic, like Louis Theroux obviously did that. John Ronson did a lot with Nazis. He does a lot with Scientology, psychopaths, like I said, and basically any sort of cult followings. He's like really, really interested in that sort of thing. So yeah, he does lots of things to do with that. And Louis Theroux, obviously, most people probably know Louis Theroux and what he does. So they have a discussion because for a while John Bronson thought of them as like rivals, but now he thinks of them as quite close friends and colleagues, which is actually quite interesting. And they just have like an hour-long discussion, and they talk about some of the stories they've encountered and how John Ronson's now in New York. But one of the big things they talk about at the beginning is anxiety, um, and how John Ronson is like he's been diagnosed with anxiety, very anxious person. How does that work in like an investigative journalist scenario? Um, and talk about like coronavirus in what's the word? Like in relation to anxiety, because as probably most of my friends know, one of the things I know everyone always thinks like they're anxious or depressed, but the one thing I did get diagnosed with is anxiety, which is fantastic because when I got diagnosed, I didn't get like any pills or anything. They just gave me a pamphlet and then told me like to call someone to talk out how to breathe, which I'm mocking, but it actually did work. The breathing technique, for anyone who's interested, I use is hold your breath for 10 seconds and then let it out for 5 seconds. There's loads and loads of different breathing techniques, but that's the one I was taught at school, and it totally worked for me. Like I never used to be able to go into assemblies because it's a different story. Um, but it's not actually because of that, like most people believe. If you know what story that is, I just don't like crowds, especially, and it's weird because I've been to like Comic Cons and stuff. But I thought like I've got a very like weird thing with crowds. Don't really like it, and it's not like if I'm in a crowd in a pub or I'm in a crowd at a Comic Con, I sort of know. I always know where the exits are. So one of the first things I do, like, is just find out exactly where the exits are. Um, but in those situations, I can leave. Like so it doesn't bother me because I know exactly I can leave whenever and like however I fucking want. But the problem for me is lectures, assemblies, things like that. I really struggle at the beginning of uni going to lectures and stuff, but then as soon as you get like a core group you can sit with, you begin to trust them more. I always try to sit on the ends of rows because I know exactly how to get out. I always talk to lecturers at the beginning and like be like, "This is like me," so I might like if I leave halfway through, I'm not being like a dick. I just couldn't hack it that day or whatever. But I really, really enjoyed them talking about it and how the lockdown is actually really, really good for people with anxieties. Um, and how like they talk about obviously this is sort of the thing that everyone who's anxious or catastrophizes, I think that's the word they use, like everything in their life, which is funny because Chris Ramsey on his podcast, which I've talked about before, he catro- he I can't say the word catastrophe. Yeah, no, fuck that. Basically, they think everything's going to be a catastrophe, and they plan out their life around it. So they're constantly thinking of what's going to go wrong. And the thing is that now it has gone wrong, everyone's sort of at ease. And I don't know if other people feel like that. I feel like that. FOMO was a very big thing for me, and like, but it's not like, oh, like people going out without me, not invite me. But it's like I don't want to go. Like I don't need the invitation, but there's that part of my brain that sits and overthinks. It's like everyone hates you, and like people who've been friends with me know about this. So for me, lockdown is very. It's like every time I have an anxious thought, I'm like, oh wait, it's the first time in my life where every time I have an anxious thought, I can then go, well, that's not true, and like there's no need to be anxious. Like so, if I text my friend and they don't reply, before I would have been like, and this is why I hate social media, and it's such a bad thing for me especially. I don't know about everyone, but I really wish I never got involved with social media. But it's like if you text someone, they don't reply, you're like, why aren't they replying? Like they must hate me, or they're out doing something normally. But now we're in lockdown, I'm like, they're probably just chilling. And even if they don't, like, if someone doesn't reply to me, I'm not like, because I don't reply to people for like hours, because everyone has the same feeling of I can't be social right now. I'm not going to reply to that message, and I like that's totally understandable. But like the thing I'm trying to say is, I feel very calm in lockdown, which is really strange, and I'm sort of loving it. Obviously, it's a horrible situation, but I've never felt this calm before. And then also, I listened to another podcast called the Blind Boy Podcast, and he talks about, I can't remember what it's called, but he talked about something where you have to rationally think of exactly what exactly is going on, or what you're feeling anxious about, and cognitive behavior therapy, is that what it's called? I'm not that sure, and I feel bad for like bringing it up without knowing the name. But that's one thing as well, that after this year at uni, I've been near enough fine. Like there's like, when I'm saying like the formal thing, that was very much like the year before. Because then he talks about, this is for anyone with anxiety, I don't know why I'm going on about it, but basically if you're feeling anxious about something, think of think of it logically. So when I was going to lectures and I hated sitting in the crowd. And every time in a lecture, I'm like, right, I'm gonna like piss myself. I'm gonna throw up. Like I need to get out of this room. Something bad's gonna happen, and I'm gonna like make a fool of myself. That's where my anxiety comes from, in being in crowds like that. Um, so then you think logically, and you're like, but I've never thrown up in a lecture. I've never pissed myself in a lecture. I've never actually had to leave a lecture in university. All the people around me wouldn't give a rat's ass if I did leave. The lecturer knows the situation and wouldn't like cause a scene. And then you sort of come over and you're like, oh, it's the same way that if I text someone and they didn't text back, um, I'd be like, well, he might be out doing something. He just doesn't want to look at his phone right now, because I do the exact same thing where I don't want to answer somebody. It's not because I don't like them, I'm just like, I can't be social right now, which is a big thing on Twitter, which I didn't really realize everyone sort of did. Um, but yeah, if you're having any issues with that, that's a good technique that I've sort of learned and used, and it's helped me extraordinary. You just think of it logically. Or it's like I've again looking for the catastrophe in every situation. If I have an like, so if you have an argument with your friend, say I sit at a bar and you're like, oh, I don't like this, and he doesn't reply, just because he's like, all right, you don't like it, I don't give a shit. And I'm like, all right, that's it, that's the end of that friendship. And I have to like, I'm like, I have to live without the friendship, it's cut off. I don't, and like I think of like every bad possible situation of like how that friendship's now cut off. But it's not, even if he was mad, which none of my, I don't think I've ever had, this is a dangerous thing to say, I don't think I've ever had like an argument with any of my close friends. Like recently, at least, I can't remember any argument I've really had with any of them. Which is again thinking logically. If I'm like, one of my friends doesn't reply to me, and I'm like, right, that person hates me, and I'm never going to speak to them again. And then you think logically, well, no, well, you've never really had an argument with any of your friends, and like you've always continued speaking. I don't know. I'm probably talking bullshit, but yeah. Um, so anyway, the John Ronson Louis through. So they talk a lot about anxieties and lockdown, and how John Ronson thinks a lot of people with anxiety after lockdown are going to try and find ways to stay in, or do a lot of the things in a similar way. I didn't mean to divulge that much about anxiety, but I think about it a lot. And hopefully those are a few techniques that people like can think about. How many minutes are we in? Bloody hell. I feel bad talking about that much now. But yeah, that's just some shit. And a really good podcast. Talk about other things as well, but that's just what I took away. And just wanted to talk about, because I think every time you listen to a podcast or a TV show as well, and like they sort of bring coronavirus for the first 2 minutes, then don't, because you want to be distracted as well. Distraction. You want to be distracted as well because you don't want to learn talk about it. But then you get to the point where yes, you can talk about it on calls or tweet about it, but then you never really get out your system. So I'm sorry, but this is just getting everything out my system. And I had one of my friends replied to my podcast last week, and he'd bought something. I don't think he'll mind. It was Joel. Shout out to Joel, number one fan of the podcast, love him a bit. He's bought like a blow up dinosaur, and I'm sorry if I'm like outing your Joel, but it's really really fucking funny. Like he sent me a video and I was actually crying, and he suggested what's the weirdest thing you've bought during lockdown. And that's actually like really, really interesting. I'm actually gonna ask a lot. Like when I talk to my friends, I want to ask them about it because we've all. Oh my god, shut up. Because we've all just must have just browsed the internet like millions of times during lockdown. Um, and I am really intrigued to see, because when he bought that, I was like, "Why'd you buy that?" And he was like, "Funny," and I was like, "Fair enough, great." I almost bought a kilogram of jelly sweets, vegetarian jelly sweets, from somewhere on Instagram. That might be the weirdest thing I bought. I haven't bought that much weird stuff. It's all. I mean, I bought some used U.S. Army trousers. They were pretty sick. I wouldn't say they were weird, but I think they were pretty sick. A lot of clothes I've been buying, but if I do buy something weird, I'll probably talk about it on here. But I'm interested to see what other people have bought, because I bet it's some weird ass shit. I did buy, like, just before we went into lockdown. I bought this, which is one of those light things that you see on TikTok, and it like does the ceiling like it's the universe. It like puts lights and has sounds. It looks absolutely class. But I left the remote in Newcastle, and I brought it home specially because I was like, oh, that'd be so sick to use at home. Like it helps you go to sleep as well because it's so peaceful. But yeah, I left the remote in Newcastle. Now I'm sad because I haven't been able to use it. I just took like a 2 minute break, so I don't know if it looks any different. But the other thing as well that I bought that might be a bit different is that I bought the Artful box. It's not. Oh, it's not going to show it. There you go. Artful. See that? I think I talked about it in one podcast, but I didn't really go into detail on it. It's not like the weirdest thing I've bought, but I think it's pretty cool. But I apologize if I have gone into it, but I'm going to go into it a bit deeper here. So basically, 25 quid. And it's supposed to be a bit like, remember loot boxes back in the day? And you used to get like loads of nerdy stuff in a loot box. You pay a certain amount, and then every month you'd get a load of nerdy stuff, and they just randomly choose it. So that's a bit like how with Artful, but in this one you got like a notepad, pencil eraser, and then some really cool pens. Like, do I have them anywhere? Oh, I should have brought them out. Yes, I do. Here we go. So they give you like these like fairly expensive pens. I mean, to me, they're expensive. They're like 4 or 5 quid per pen. So you get like these sort of ones. Try and put it in front of me. See that? It's like, I don't know if anyone draws properly. You get like those sort of pens, just loads of different types, and it gives you a little booklet, like suggestions of things to draw, and then articles from artists and different things like that. And I just think it's really, really cool because I've enjoyed doodling for like quite a while now. Just when I was in Newcastle, some of my friends will know that I'd started getting, because I had this idea to start a new um, Instagram page where I'd post my film photography, and then I'd also do little film, what's the word? Movie reviews. I used to do little movie reviews, but instead of just putting like a poster as the picture on Instagram, I'd get the cinema ticket where I went to go and see it, and then I was going to draw like something on the picture of the ticket. And if you head over to Go Brandle on Film on Instagram, you can actually see where I'd actually done a few of those, and I had like a stack of about 10 where I was just doodling. I've unfortunately left them in Newcastle, but so I got this kit, and I was like, I enjoy doodling, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy this, and I've just been doing like tiny little drawings. I've got one of them here. That's just like a little. It's terrible. I've just got like a little flash sheet. Can you see that? Like, there's just a few drawings there. There's a hand because I had a little. Oh, you can see my bedroom. Oh, this must be so hectic to try and see. Um, you know what? I'm not gonna try that. So basically, there's a hand because one of my friends, she was like, "Oh, let me try and do a drawing challenge," because she likes to draw as well. And she was like, "Try and draw a hand because that's apparently one of the hardest things to draw." So try to draw that. And then Simpsons. I've been watching a lot of Simpsons because it's just come on Disney Plus. So I've been picking out a few things from there. So I've got like the little tongue, if you remember Jebediah's silver tongue, and they had to, there you go. See him there, and he's in a little cowboy hat 'cause they had to hide him in the museum so Lisa wouldn't find him. And I've got a few original ones like this one here. Um, so I was like, so a lot of my inspiration came from a guy called Loro Verz. There's another little one. Oh, this side, little there and there. To be fair, a few little creations, and I liked Loro Verz's art a lot. That's what he's on Instagram. If you want to check him out, he does a lot of scribbles and doodle art. Um, and he just creates all his own creations of characters and things that are obviously whatever piece of art he's doing in relation to that. That's what's in the picture, but he floors it in such a way he could fill out like a whole canvas or a whole wall, and he just makes it look astonishing. Beans and Toast actually has a song about him. That's how I found him, and then through him, I found a fair few other artists that do similar work, and also I've noticed that lots of tattoo artists do a lot of similar work as well. There's a guy called Primal Scream. I'll link all these people below in the description, and I absolutely love the art he does. And it's basically like I like lots of the graphic design that I see lots of my friends do and just lots on Instagram. But it all just seems a bit perfect. Like all the lines, it's like it's all symmetrical, and all the lines are filled, and it's just like perfectly drawn or rendered. Or rendered probably isn't the right word. That shows you how much I don't know about it. But I really like hand drawn doodles, just sketches. I just really like the idea of it. I like the look of it. I want to try and get better at it. Like I say, I do like a full sheet, and every like there's one or two things. Well, I think I do really well, like the little Simpsons tongue. I think that's absolutely class. I think I did like really well, not to like toot my own horn, but I think that looked really really cool. Um, but yeah, so that's why I got the artful box. I've just been doodling different stuff. Some of them it's just like I'm sort like that thing where it's like whatever you like, try and do it for an hour every day. So if you like write for an hour, if you like draw for an hour, making videos, make a video for an hour every day, whatever it may be. But I've started doing drawing every day for an hour, and I've come up with some pretty cool stuff. Some of them are just like inside jokes. With my friend Ashley and Chloe, we've got one. It's not even an inside joke, 'cause it was just once said in a chat, but it was like life be crazy. Because we were talking about something, and I sort of designed this like whole picture of life be crazy, and it's like that incorporated into a picture. I haven't got the little notebook with me. I've just got that, but I'm pretty proud of that one as well. It's like pretty cool. So it's just stuff like that. But yeah, and that's a good segue into just things that are creative that I'm finding enjoying at the minute. And I think this is a perfect time to be creative and to I know we've all got like uni work and maybe real jobs to like be filling up our time and also looking after family members. But I think this is a perfect time to explore the arts and more creative media. Like I said, I've been trying to get into more drawing. I've been doing the podcast every week, which I've been absolutely loving. Um, and yeah, I think it's a perfect time because I also want to start writing as well. I've seen one of my friends sent me. It was like this, not a sort of a competition where it's you have to write something and send it in. You could win maybe some money or like a place handing in scripts or what's the word screenwriting and things like that. So I really want to try and get into that, and I'm going to start doing that after I've handed all my work in. Because if I'm writing and typing stuff up, I want it to be doing my essays. But yeah, there's another guy that my friend Ashing as well sent me on Instagram. Can't quite remember his name, but it was like absolutely class. Um, shit, he's not popped up, and I can't remember his name. Um, but he does like little. He might be on YouTube, but I don't know him from YouTube or anywhere like that. His Instagram, he makes all these really cool little videos, and one of them is. Do I have it with me? I've been absolutely hammering this cup and string. Oh, this is terrible. This little cup and string, and I've been like, obviously trying to get it. Um, Cup and ball, maybe. I'm trying to think, is that what it's called? But yeah, and he did like the one of the first things that I saw, because I think she showed me him like 2 weeks ago, and like he flicks it, but the camera moves with it, if that makes sense. Like he flicks the ball, but the camera moves with the ball, and it lands on top. He does another one where he does a flip, and the camera moves with him. And I just think it's absolutely class. And I've been going down his Instagram. I'll definitely like check the description because I'm gonna link it. But yeah, so that's just like making little videos. And also, one of the things I was going to do one week is go through all my original YouTube videos because I went through like my camp and weekend away videos, and I forgot like sort of how creative I used to be. And there's like in one of them, there's a shot where I get my GoPro, and we're in like a dining hall with like 50 people, maybe more, and I get them to send it all the way down the table, like in time lapse really slowly, and it's just like a really cool little clip of like people like, woo, 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 and it, like passing down the table and everyone just eating. And then I have another one when I was at camp where like I'd give different people a GoPro, cut between different shots, and I was just like, this is really creative for me, and like I haven't really been doing that like since, sort of thing. So I really want to start getting back into that. And this guy on Instagram, I think he's called Zach, but I honestly might just be being dumb because I'm called Zach. But he's absolutely class, and he really gave me that fuel again to go and start making like mini YouTube videos, or even just Instagram videos. So definitely check out Go Prandle on Film, because I might start posting some on there. But all that stemmed from what weirdest thing you'd bought in Joe. Don't explain Joe's properly. It's like it's a blow up suit that you wear, and it's a dinosaur, and he runs around in, so it looks like you're riding the dinosaur. I don't think I explained that properly. But yeah, so I've just been getting some more creative. Like if I've been buying clothes, I've been buying more creative things and following that sort of stuff on Instagram. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it this week. Thank you so much for listening. Week 9, like I said, next week, big week 10. I think that's like a bit of a milestone, 10 weeks in. I think I might post my first podcast on Spotify next week to see if people are interested in that and see if it gets picked up on there. I think I'm either going to try and get a guest on, or I'm going to try and do like my favorite movies of all time and really dig in deep. So if I do like for this, like share it everywhere, because normally I don't share everywhere, I only share it's like my Instagram. But if I do share everywhere, I want it to be like really in detail my favorite films. So if you're into that, obviously please come along next week. It won't just be films; it will be me babbling on like this. If you did like this one, give it a like. I don't think many people liked last week's, but that's a shame. We live and learn. But thank you for coming back, and I'll see you next week for Distraction. Thank you.